Welcome to Baking and Baking, and today we are going to be making some old-fashioned or cake donuts. I've got all of my ingredients here. It's not that many, so it shouldn't be too intimidating. I've got flour and I've got some corn flour because I don't have any cake flour, which is better for this recipe, but we'll go into that a little bit later. I've got some baking powder, some salt, nutmeg, and those are all my dry ingredients. Over here are the wet ingredients, where I've got my sugar, some kind of room temperature butter. It was cold, so I microwaved it. And I've got some homemade vanilla, some sour cream, some eggs. We're actually only using the yolks in this recipe. And then because we actually want to make blueberry cake donuts, specifically because when Krispy Kreme first came to Australia, they made blueberry donuts, which are these cake donuts, and now they don't. You can't get them anywhere. Nobody makes them. It's not really a thing. And my husband absolutely loves blueberry donuts. So today we are trialing this recipe. So first up, I'm actually going to put my dry ingredients all together in a bowl so that later on when we've combined everything else, we can just slowly add this in. So to begin with, I need 360 grams of cake flour. Now, because I don't have cake flour, I have to make it up with my plain flour and corn flour. Now the recipe says that it's 3/4 of a cup of plain flour and add 2 tablespoons of corn flour, and that'll make the cake. I could measure it, but really what I want is weight. Flour is incredibly important with every recipe that you do, and if you get it wrong, it can make your cake really dense, really dry, all that sort of stuff. So your flour measurement is actually really, really important. For me, it's more about the weight than the cup size. That is 140, so that's okay. You don't have to make cake flour. You probably could do these with just plain flour, but as we're experimenting and we're trying to make the best version of this donut, and we do have some corn flour available to us, we thought, why not give it a go? So I'm at 140 grams and I need 360 grams of this cake flour, so about 100 grams more. Okay, so that's all about flour. So there's our cake flour all ready to go. It is a little bit lighter and a little bit softer. Flour's done. I'm a messy baker and maker of things, and it's easier if I have a clearer batch. Keep being reminded by my husband, not always good at doing it. So that's done. Next is 2 teaspoons of baking powder. 1. Now I will add the recipe of this underneath in the comment or in the description, so you'll be able to see it. You don't have to list every ingredient. And a teaspoon of salt. A 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Now I didn't used to like nutmeg at all personally. It was not a flavour that I was a fan of. I love cinnamon, but not nutmeg. But having since started cooking and using nutmeg myself, I actually really enjoy it now, especially in donuts. It's that missing flavour. If you've never added nutmeg to your donuts, I strongly recommend you do. Alright, so that's our dry ingredients. They are all done, ready to go. Next is our wet ingredients. Now I didn't know until recently that sugar is a wet ingredient because it like dissolves. It's something you can look up. Somebody who knows these things can tell you more about it. But essentially, sugar is a wet ingredient. Now I need 2/3 of a cup, or it says here 133 grams of sugar. Now, what we're going to be doing now is we're going to cream essentially the sugar and the butter together, get that all mixed in, then we'll add the 3 egg yolks, the sour cream, vanilla, and then we combine the dry ingredients. Next, what does my recipe say? Is to add the yolks together. You can tell tell these are farm fresh eggs because the yolk is so tight. Next up is to add the sour cream. Now it says a cup, which is American, and again, so it's 240 grams as opposed to our 250. So the recipe that I found actually didn't add vanilla, but we love vanilla and we're going to add it. Next is to slowly add this flour mixture. So I'm going to do this with a spoon so that it's all in. Just give it a bit of a stir. I can add a couple of spoonfuls, mix. So you'll see that not all the flour has been mixed in before I start adding a bit more, and it's because I don't want to over-mix. All right, here goes. I'm going to add all of these. This is 125 grams of blueberries. And this is too much for this scraper. It's not its purpose in life. I don't know that it needs an hour to stiffen up though, which is the purpose of the fridge. You leave it in there so that while it's still sticky dough, it's not so sticky that you can't work it. Okay. So you might be wondering, if I think it's too sticky, why haven't I added any flour? And the answer to that is actually that we're going to roll this out in flour and add flour on top so that it remains quite sticky, but there's more flour added. And if I add too much flour, I can't take it out. So now I'm actually going to cover it in cling wrap, put it in the fridge for roughly an hour, then come out. You'll see we've dusted flour all over the surface. Get a rolling pin and roll it out. We'll see you soon. Our dough has come out of the fridge. It's quite cool. It's still quite sticky though. As you can see, I have really floured the surface here. Two cookie cutters here, one for the donut holes and one for the actual donuts. Dip them into flour before cutting. It will help reduce any stickiness. Try and fit as many donuts as you can. Don't worry, they might be a bit thin, but we'll see. Just felt like the gross squish. So I've got my initial donuts. I've got the tray ready to go. Cut my donut holes. Now, with this leftover dough, I'm going to pull it all back together and roll it out another time without trying to add too much flour. Very carefully place them in, and they will sink and then they will pop back up again. Now I've set myself a timer of 2 minutes. This is how long it should take to do one side, and then we'll flip them over and do the other side. I'm using peanut oil as it's a neutral oil, but you can use any oils that you want that's neutral and that you've got on hand. We have peanut. I've got 2 in here at a time. I could potentially do a third, but I just want to take my time. Ooh, look at them. Oh, that looks so good. Alrighty, so we're going to make a glaze rather than an icing for these donuts. What that means is you've seen those Krispy Kreme glazes. Essentially that. It's really simple, really easy to do. It's 2.5 cups of icing sugar or 300 grams and 5 tablespoons of either water or milk or a mix of both, whichever you'd prefer. A pinch of salt just to bring out that flavour, and I'm doing vanilla flavouring. Alright, so I've added the milk. I'm going to add my pinch of salt. And it says half a teaspoon of vanilla. I'll do a little bit more. So as you can see, the mixture is quite liquid, it's quite runny, and that's what we're looking for. We are ready to glaze our donuts. We've realised that our mixture was too thick. These look fantastic, but that is going to be overloaded. Just made up a new batch, added it to the bowl, and it's a lot more of a glaze. There we go. It should be running into all the crevices. So today we've got some blueberry cake donuts. Blueberry, good. Great. Okay. Let's go. Let's see what it tastes like, guys.
Lovely. Crumbly. Awful. That's fantastic.
I'm mostly just tasting icing this morning because it's so thin.
It's a funny cross between cake and donut.
Yeah, it's a cake donut. Oh, it's an old-fashioned cake donut. Yeah, I didn't know either.
Cool. A little bit crispy on the outside. Yeah. And
Crispy.
cakey on the inside.
Yes,
Yeah.
very cakey.
You can see the crumbs very cake-like. But the outside's like donut. It's really nice. I think if you were to roll these in cinnamon sugar, if that was your preference, they would be really, really good too.
What's not to like?
Yeah.